Listen to me. Before you start thinking about how to speak better, before you start worrying about the right words, the perfect tone, or the smooth delivery, you've got to learn how to listen. I mean really listen. I'm not talking about nodding your head while you wait for your turn to talk. I'm talking about shutting your mouth, opening your mind, and hearing what's actually being said. Not just the words, but the meaning, the feeling, the intent behind them. You want to be a better communicator. You want people to lean in when you speak. Then start by leaning in when they speak. See, most people are terrible listeners, and that's why they're terrible communicators. You can't respond to what you don't understand, and you can't understand if you're already rehearsing your reply while the other person is still mid-sentence. I remember being in situations where I thought I knew what someone was going to say. I cut them off. I jumped to my conclusion, and guess what? I was wrong. Dead wrong. And in that moment, I didn't just lose the accuracy of the conversation. I lost their trust. Because people can feel it when you're not truly paying attention. They know when your eyes are saying, "Hurry up so I can talk." I know some of you think, well, I hear people all the time. I listen. No, you hear them, but listening is different. Hearing is just the sound hitting your ears. Listening is processing, interpreting, and valuing what's coming your way. Listening says, what you're saying matters enough for me to stop everything else and focus right here, right now. And here's the truth. When you give people that kind of attention, they give you something in return. They open up. They tell you more. They trust you more. They respect you more. And when it's your turn to talk, they listen. Because you listened first. Let me make it plain. Imagine you're talking to somebody, and the whole time they're looking over your shoulder, checking their phone, scanning the room. What do you feel? You feel invisible. Now flip it. When you're talking to somebody who locks in, who nods, who remembers what you said 5 minutes ago, you feel seen. You feel valued. And when people feel valued, your words land like seeds in good soil. They grow. I've sat in meetings where folks were throwing around ideas, and everybody wanted to be the smartest in the room. They were talking over each other, trying to win. But the smartest person in that room, it was the quiet one, the one who asked the right question at the right time, the one who listened, gathered the pieces, and then spoke with precision. That's power. Listening is like gathering ammunition. Every detail you pick up, every emotion you notice, every word choice you catch, it's all intel. And when you respond with that intel, your words hit harder. You're not just talking, you're connecting. Let me give you an example. Someone says, "I've just been so overwhelmed at work lately." You could say, "Yeah, me too," and move on. Or you could listen deeper. You could hear that it's not just about work. It's about stress, maybe fear, maybe burnout. You could say, "It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. What's been the hardest part?" Now you've just taken the conversation somewhere meaningful. You've gone from small talk to real talk. And that's where influence lives. And don't think this is just for personal conversations. Leaders, salespeople, teachers, coaches, this is for you. Your influence is tied to your ability to understand the other side. You can't sell a solution to a problem you don't fully grasp. You can't motivate someone if you don't know what they care about. You can't resolve conflict if you don't know what's fueling it. Listening is your diagnostic tool, and sometimes listening means hearing what's not being said. Watch the body language, notice the hesitation before they answer. Pay attention to the words they choose to leave out. That's part of the message too. Sometimes the most important part. But here's the challenge. Real listening takes humility. It means you have to accept that what the other person has to say might be more important than what you're about to say. It means putting your ego on mute for a minute, and for a lot of us, that's hard. We want to win the conversation. We want to be the one with the mic drop moment. But if your goal is connection, not just performance, then the win is in understanding, not dominating. You ever notice how the best communicators make you feel like you're the only person in the world when you're talking to them? That's not magic. That's focus. That's intentional listening. They're not thinking about their grocery list. They're not waiting for a pause so they can change the subject. They are locked in, and that presence, it's rare, it's magnetic. It makes you want to give them your full attention when it's their turn. Now here's the payoff. When you listen like that, you gain something you can't fake. Insight. Insight gives you the ability to tailor your message so it lands right where it needs to. It lets you use the other person's own words, their own concerns, their own priorities, to frame your message in a way they can't ignore. That's next-level communication. So how do you practice it? Start small. The next time someone talks to you, put the phone down, literally turn your body toward them, make eye contact, repeat back a little of what they said, not like a robot, but to show you got it. Ask a follow-up question. Don't just listen to reply, listen to understand. And let me warn you, this isn't going to feel natural at first. You've been conditioned to be quick, to multitask, to jump in with your point. You're going to have to fight that urge. But if you commit to this, you're going to see your conversations change. People will open up more. They'll seek you out. They'll take your words more seriously, because they'll know you're not just talking at them. You're talking with them. And one last thing, real listening is an act of respect. It says you matter, your thoughts matter, your perspective matters. When you make people feel that, you build bridges that no speech, no clever phrase, no flashy presentation could ever replace. And once that bridge is built, everything you say will travel across it stronger, faster, and with more impact than you can imagine. So if you want to improve your communication in the next few minutes, start here. Not with what you say, but with how you listen. Do you want me to now move on to key point 2 and give it the same treatment so it flows like one continuous speech? Now that you know listening is the foundation, we've got to talk about the next piece. How you actually say what you mean. And I'm telling you right now, if you can master this, you're going to stand out in any room you walk into. Because most people, they drown you in words. They think the more they say, the smarter they sound. But that's not how it works. People don't remember the person who talked the longest. They remember the person who made it clear. You've got to learn to cut the fluff. Stop dressing up your message like it's going to a costume party. Strip it down to what matters. I've sat through conversations where I had no idea what the other person was trying to say because they were taking me on this long, scenic tour through every thought in their head. And by the time they finally landed, I had no energy left to care. Don't be that person. If you want to make an impact, think headline first. You know how news articles start. They hit you with the headline before the details. They give you the point before they give you the proof. That's what you've got to do. Lead with the core message, then fill in the details. When you start with the punchline, people lean in for the story. When you bury the point in the middle of a paragraph, you lose them before you even get there. Let me give you a real example. Somebody says, well, you know, I was thinking the other day, and I've been doing some research, and I talked to a few people, and based on everything I've gathered, I think maybe we should consider. That's exhausting. You've already lost your audience. Instead, start with, I think we need to change our approach. Boom, now they're listening, now they're wondering why. And then you can explain the research, the conversations, the thinking that led you there. When you speak, you've got to imagine your audience's attention span like a balloon. Every unnecessary word is air leaking out. You've only got a little time before it deflates, so you've got to get in there quick, make your point, and lock it in. And this isn't about talking less just to talk less. It's about respecting your listener. When you give people a message they can grasp in one shot, you're saying, I value your time, I value your brain space, and I want to make this easy for you. That builds trust. That makes people want to hear from you again. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people using complexity as a way to look smart. They throw in fancy words, technical jargon, long-winded explanations, thinking it makes them sound impressive. But the truth, it makes them sound insecure. Real intelligence is when you can take something complicated and explain it so clearly that anyone, your grandma, your little cousin, your neighbor, could understand it. That's the mark of a communicator who's mastered their craft. You've got to stop thinking about what you want to say and start thinking about what they need to hear. If your goal is connection, your message has to be shaped for the person receiving it, not for your ego. That means using examples they relate to, language they use, and references that make sense in their world. It means cutting anything that's only there to make you sound good, but doesn't actually help them understand. When I speak to different crowds, I don't use the same examples every time. Why? Because a room full of business executives isn't thinking like a room full of college students. The core message stays the same, but the way I frame it changes. That's how you make sure the words don't just pass over their heads. They sink in, and here's the thing, clarity doesn't happen by accident. You've got to work at it. You've got to practice trimming your sentences. You've got to rehearse boiling your point down to a single sharp sentence. You've got to be ruthless about removing anything that doesn't move the point forward. Think of it like packing for a trip. You don't take 10 suitcases just because you like clothes. You take what you actually need for the journey. Your message works the same way. I've been in rooms where somebody told a story that went on for so long, you could see the energy in the room drop. People started checking their phones, looking around, mentally tapping out. And here's the painful truth. By the time that person got to their point, the audience was gone. The window had closed. You can't afford that. You've got to grab them, hold them, and deliver before their minds wander. This is why I tell people to think in terms of structure. Headline, detail, takeaway. First, the headline. What's your main point in one sentence? Then the detail. Just enough background or evidence to make it stick. Finally, the takeaway. What do you want them to remember, feel, or do? That's it. No extra loops, no side quests, no verbal detours. And don't think structure makes you stiff. It actually makes you freer. When you know the skeleton of your message, you can dress it with the right stories, examples, and energy without losing your way. It keeps you from wandering off into the weeds. It keeps you focused on what matters. Some of you are thinking, but I've got a lot to say. I get it, but here's the truth. You don't have to say everything today. You can't download your entire brain into someone else in one conversation. You've got to prioritize. You've got to decide if they remember only one thing from this, what's it going to be? And then everything you say should serve that one thing. I promise you, when you start speaking with that kind of discipline, people will start quoting you. Not because you said a lot, but because you said something that stuck. That's how you create lines people remember years later. Think about the speakers, teachers, or leaders you've remembered over the years. They didn't just talk. They made it easy for you to carry their words with you. They gave you sound bites that were so clear you could repeat them without messing them up. That's the power of clarity. So here's the challenge. Before your next conversation, ask yourself, what's my headline? Before your next meeting, ask, what's the one sentence they've got to remember? Before your next speech, ask, if I strip this down to the bones, what's left? And then build from there. Because in the end, the world doesn't reward the person who talks the most. It rewards the person who communicates so clearly that people walk away knowing exactly what to think, feel, or do next. And that's how you turn words into impact. Listen, you can have the perfect words, the clearest message, but if your body is saying something different, you've already lost. Communication isn't just what comes out of your mouth. It's what people see. It's what they feel when they're looking at you. Your body language is talking the whole time, whether you realize it or not. And here's the crazy part, it's talking louder than your words. You ever have someone tell you, "I'm fine," but their shoulders are slumped, their voice is low, and they won't even make eye contact? You don't need to be a mind reader to know they're not fine. Why? Because the body never lies. The mouth can say anything, but the body is telling the truth 24/7. When you're trying to connect, inspire, lead, or persuade, you can't afford for your words and your body to be in two different conversations. If your message is confidence, your body better stand like it believes it. If your message is passion, your face better light up like it matters to you. If your message is urgency, your tone better push people to move. You can't say "this is important" while looking bored, leaning back, and checking the clock. Think about it. When you walk into a room, before you even open your mouth, people have already made a decision about you. They've read your posture, your facial expression, your energy. They've picked up on whether you're here to give or here to take. They've noticed if you're present or if your mind is somewhere else. And those first few seconds can make or break the way they hear every single word you're about to say. I've been in situations where someone had all the right information. They knew their stuff front to back, but their delivery was flat. No energy, no conviction. And I'm sitting there thinking, if you don't believe in what you're saying, why should I? See, energy isn't just about volume, it's about presence. It's about showing up fully. It's about letting people feel your belief before they even process your words. And don't think this means you've got to be bouncing off the walls or doing cartwheels. It's not about fake hype, it's about alignment. Your body should match the emotion of your message. If you're talking about something serious, your tone, your pace, your stillness should make people lean in. If you're celebrating something, your smile, your gestures, your pace should carry that joy into the room. I want you to think of your body as your silent partner in communication. Every movement, every expression, every pause, it's either helping you or hurting you. The good news is you can train it. You can make it work for you instead of against you. Start with posture. Stand like you belong there. Shoulders back, chest open, head up. Not stiff, not robotic, but grounded. Why? Because posture communicates certainty, and certainty builds trust. People are drawn to someone who looks like they know where they're going. Then there's eye contact. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone talk to a group while looking at the floor, the ceiling, the slides on the wall, anywhere but the people they're supposed to connect with. Look people in the eye, not in a creepy, unblinking way, but in a way that says, "I see you. I'm talking to you. This matters." You'd be amazed at how much more engaged people are when they feel seen. Your face is another tool you've got to use. If you're telling a story about something exciting, let your face show it. If you're talking about a challenge, let that seriousness live in your expression. A flat face is a dead message. Your audience shouldn't have to guess how you feel about what you're saying. Show them, and let's talk about your hands. Some of you lock your hands together like you're holding on for dear life. Others flap them around like you're trying to fly away. Neither one works. Your gestures should underline your words, not distract from them. Open-handed gestures say, "I'm being honest." Pointing says, "Pay attention here." Pulling your hands in says, "This is personal." Use them with intention. Even your movement across a stage or across a room communicates. If you pace aimlessly, it looks like you're lost. If you stand frozen in one spot the whole time, it can feel stiff. But if you move with purpose, step closer when you want to be more personal, Step back when you're painting the big picture. That movement tells a story alongside your words. And then there's the pause. This one is powerful. Most people are scared of silence, so they fill every second with sound. You know. But when you pause on purpose, it does two things. It gives your audience time to absorb your words, and it adds weight to what you just said. A well-timed pause can be more powerful than a paragraph. Here's the thing, you can have all these elements in place, but if you're not present in the moment, people can feel it. They can tell when you're on autopilot. They can tell when you're saying words you've said 100 times, but you're not actually feeling them anymore. Presence means you're here, right now with them, not thinking about your next meeting, not mentally checking out. You're locked in, and your body is reflecting that. And you might be wondering, how do I know if my body language is helping or hurting me? Simple. Record yourself. I know nobody likes it, but it's the fastest way to see what your audience sees. Watch for slouching. Watch for nervous habits. Watch for facial expressions that don't match your words, and then fix them. I've had moments where I thought I was bringing the energy, but when I watched the replay, I looked half-asleep. That's when I realized what you feel on the inside doesn't always show on the outside. Sometimes you have to turn the dial up just to make it come across as normal to your audience. When your body language, your tone, and your words are all in sync, that's when you become unforgettable. People might forget the exact words you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel, and that feeling, that connection, is what makes your message stick long after the conversation ends. So don't just say it. Show it. You can be the best listener in the world. You can speak with crystal clarity. You can have the kind of body language that draws people in. But if you don't know how to adjust to the person or the crowd in front of you, you're still going to miss. Because communication is not one size fits all. The way you talk to one person might be the exact way you lose another. I've seen people walk into a conversation thinking, this is how I always talk, this is my style, they'll just have to get it. And then they wonder why their words bounce off the other person like rubber bullets. It's not because they're wrong, it's because they didn't aim. They didn't take the time to understand who they were talking to. You've got to read the room, and I don't mean just glance around and see who's there. I mean really rate it. Is this a room full of high energy, competitive personalities who need you to match their pace? Or is this a group that needs you to slow it down, give them space, and build trust before you push? Are you talking to someone who's all about the facts, the numbers, the logic? Or are you talking to someone who moves based on emotion, story, and vision? If you don't make that adjustment, you could be saying all the right things in all the wrong ways. It's like speaking perfect Spanish to someone who only understands Japanese. Doesn't matter how good your Spanish is, it's not going to land. I remember talking to this young guy who was struggling to get through to his team. He was fired up, passionate, talking about the vision, the future, the big picture. But his team was made up of people who were analytical. They needed a breakdown, a process, a roadmap. So what happened? They left the meeting feeling inspired for about 5 minutes, but then it faded because they didn't know what to do next. It wasn't that his vision was bad. It was that he didn't communicate it in a way they could use. And the flip side is true too. I've seen people get up in front of a crowd that's hungry for energy and inspiration, but they stayed stuck in charts and bullet points. Technically, the information was perfect, but it didn't move anybody. Because people don't just need the message, they need it in the form they can actually receive. The best communicators know how to flex. They don't change their core values, they don't fake who they are, but they adapt their delivery so it meets the listener where they are. That's not manipulation, that's connection. That's you saying, I care enough about you to make sure you understand me. And here's the thing, adapting isn't just about the group, it's about the moment. You can have the same audience, but a different moment calls for a different approach. If the energy in the room is high, you can ride that wave. If it's low, you've got to either lift it up or adjust your pace to draw people in slowly. If they're tense, maybe you need to break the ice before you deliver the heavy stuff. If they're already excited, maybe you need to focus that energy into action. This is why listening, the first point we talked about, is so critical. You can't adapt if you don't first pick up on where the other person is mentally, emotionally, and even physically. That means noticing their tone when they talk, watching how they react when you say certain things, paying attention to whether they lean in or pull back. And adapting doesn't mean you water down your message. It means you find the angle that gets it through. If you're talking to a group of young athletes, you might frame your point through competition, discipline, and the grind. If you're talking to business owners, you might frame it through leadership, results, and growth. The heart of the message can be the same, but the doorway you use to get it in will be different. This applies in everyday life too. Think about it. You don't talk to your boss the same way you talk to your best friend. You don't talk to a 5-year-old the same way you talk to a 50-year-old, not because you're being fake, but because you understand they process things differently. I had a situation once where I was working with two people on the same problem. One of them needed me to be direct, short, to the point, no fluff. The other, if I had come at them the same way, they would have shut down immediately. They needed encouragement, patience, and a little space to process. If I had treated them both the same, one would have listened and the other would have walked away. Adjusting kept both conversations alive. And here's what you've got to understand. People are more open to your words when they feel like you get them. When they feel like you understand their world, their challenges, their perspective, they lower their guard. They stop bracing against you and they start leaning toward you. That's when real communication happens. Some of you might be thinking, but that sounds like a lot of work. Always adjusting, always paying attention. You're right. It is, but that's what separates average communicators from the ones who change people's lives. Average communicators talk in one voice, one way, all the time. Great communicators are like musicians. They can change the tempo, the key, the mood to fit the song the moment calls for. You can develop this skill. Start by paying attention to the little signals people give you. Notice if their eyes light up when you tell a story, or if they perk up when you give data. Notice if they nod when you slow down, or if they seem more engaged when you pick up the pace. The more you do this, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you'll find yourself switching gears without even thinking about it. You'll feel when to turn up the energy, when to bring it down, when to challenge, when to encourage. And when you can do that, you don't just talk, you connect. You don't just deliver a message, you deliver it in a way that sticks because it's shaped for the person receiving it. So stop trying to make everyone adjust to you. If you want to truly reach people, start adjusting to them.